warm welcome to DSEI 2019. This week you'll see firsthand some of our latest innovations from the defence and security industry, including our new manufacturing and space hubs. You can also hear directly from our industry and military leaders addressing the most pressing issues now and in the future. This morning we'll host our new Minister for Defence Procurement, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, Chief of Defence People, Lieutenant General Richard Nugi in the East Theatre, First Sea Lord and Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Tony Radkin in the South Theatre, and General Patrick Saunders, Commanding Joint Forces Command in the West Theatre. Stop by the Team UK stand at 12:45 for an important ministerial announcement about women in defence. Wishing you a productive first day at DSEI.
Well, welcome everyone to the halls of the Excel in London for DSEI 2019. Day zero, of course, brings us the keynotes and the domain conferences upstairs. The keynote speech was delivered by Air Marshal Richard Knighton, the Deputy Chief of Staff of Military Capability, talking about the changing landscapes that the services, all services, are increasingly finding themselves having to operate in, and the peer and near-peer conflicts that are driving procurement but also strategy.
Generating this operational tempo in the future will require us, first and foremost, to not just break down the traditional environmental stovepipes of land, sea and air, but to truly integrate military action across the 5 operational domains of land, sea, air, space and cyberspace, in what is sometimes described as multi-domain warfare. The irony of this statement, of us then breaking away from this session into a land, sea and air conferences, is not entirely lost on me this morning. But by thinking about operating in all 5 domains in an integrated way, and by doing this right, and by doing it better than our enemies, we can deliver rapid understanding, rapid decision-making and decisive military effect. Too often I think we seek to sprinkle innovation magic to solve difficult or even intractable problems. Doing innovation effectively, at scale, in a complex bureaucracy, with long and well-established cultures that are often the very antithesis of a good innovative culture, is hard. We've set ourselves in MOD and Defence a very significant challenge in trying to make defence innovative by instinct. It won't be easy. Buying a few commercially available bits of kit for Special Forces soldiers is not ambitious enough, but it is a start.
After the keynotes upstairs, it was the time for the domain conferences. First up for DSEI TV was Tony Radkin, newly installed as the First Sea Lord for the Royal Navy. Again, talking about the capabilities that the service has introduced and will introduce in the next few years. He was very bullish about this point, talking about platforms like the Type 26, potentially the Type 31, but also the Dreadnought submarine. First and foremost for him was the Carrier Strike Group, centered around the Queen Elizabeth and Prince of Wales, and how the service will have to reorganize itself for carrier strike strategy and deployments.
The upshot is that the Royal Navy is growing for the first time in 70 years. And that's a great place to be in for the service, and it's a great place to be in as a newly appointed First Sea Lord. But that is not enough. We have to do much more than just bask in the avoidance of decline. We need to change. The reasons why are compelling. Defence and the Navy's strategic context has changed, and we need to change with it. We're now in an era of potential state-on-state conflict. These state-on-state threats are appearing in different ways. This is not a straightforward return to the old Cold War and that mentality. Sub-threshold and grey zone activity is becoming much more the norm. We're in a state of constant competition, and we need to be able to handle and shape and respond. We are enormously grateful for the investment by successive governments and the nation. My task now is to deliver on this, increase and magnify the value of that investment. And we need to shift the whole Navy to being a carrier task group Navy. That will allow us to project our power around the world and at a level alongside our American and French allies. This is about being able to demonstrate a global Navy, project influence and respond to threats far more quickly. I intend to have a higher percentage of the Navy at sea and stationed abroad. We've already seen the success of forward basing in Bahrain. Now I want to have a conversation about whether we could have ships forward based in other areas of the world where we have significant UK and international interests.
Over in the air domain, Air Commodore Daniel Storr at the RAF's Combat Air talked about 5th gen platforms like the F-35, but also 6th gen platform programs and projects like Tempest. Further on Tempest, he outlined the kind of capabilities that sort of platform would need to meet the challenges in contested environments. Chief among these were 3 different tiers of unmanned and autonomous systems to augment the Tempest capabilities.
That potential adversaries are now targeting our traditional strengths. They're not trying to defeat us or defeating us solely through low-end technology. It is that high-end technology. They're developing advanced 5th generation aircraft and missile systems to try and limit or deny our access, and they're also proliferating these systems quite widely. However, the combat air system, we fully recognise, can't operate by itself. It needs to operate within a system of systems, but is there to make use of the inherent advantages of air. That is speed of response, height and reach. Again, so consequently, once our existing Typhoon capability reaches the end of its operational life, we will need a next generation combat air system to keep pace with the threat and fill the roles presently undertaken by Typhoon. This is primarily to defend the skies above the UK and also on deployed operations, but also to provide intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance to contribute to that information advantage, and also provide an attack capability, all within a contested environment.
And of course, not forgetting the land domain. Rob Murray, head ISR Land and Maritime at NATO's International Staff, said, or quoted, that policy is war by other means. Further, he continued to question or query whether military procurement practices, capabilities, but also the military structures themselves are best suited for the next generation of peer and near-peer conflicts in contested environments.
I would argue that in the era of the 4th Industrial Revolution, where intelligence and information is to the 21st century what fire and maneuver was to the 20th, then maybe the way in which we do business capability development and delivery needs to be seriously looked at. Because I do not believe we are optimizing our people, our ideas, or our technology to maximum effect. If our military organizational structures are derived from that first industrial revolution, I would say our defense industry is very much cemented in the second and third. And if we accept that, a business model, broadly speaking, is made up of a value proposition, a company's risk profile, and those within the value chain of that risk, and its investment philosophy, including the way it invests in independent research and development, then I would argue the most defense industry business models see themselves to the left of this chart. So a very traditional way in which requirements are set, and there's a long laundry list of what needs to be delivered. Often, depressingly, being yesterday's technology delivered tomorrow. Now, what does that mean in reality and in the context of the fourth industrial revolution and fraying of norms? Well, NATO's near-peer adversaries are investing in cutting-edge military technology. They're also forging effective partnerships between the state and the private sector to gain military advantage. When we look at the NATO alliance through the lens of a near-peer competitor, we see our 20th century capability development and procurement systems being too costly, too inefficient, and slow. And compounding this problem is an industrial base that lacks resilience, responsiveness, and depth. Now, NATO allies tend to produce capabilities that, quite frankly, are highly complex, exquisite, and too costly to lose. Think aircraft carriers. My point here is that the defense industry needs to shift its business model. And the military, the customer, needs to help enable this shift through greater collaboration and changing the expectations.